once we get our meeting started. But look, thank you everyone. Thank you and welcome to all our streamers that persevere with certainly our virtual meetings and obviously the opportunity of sharing in the decision making of your council. So councillors, we do have just a few gaps in our ranks today, and normally at this stage we would roll through our apologies and leaves of absence for the opportunity of not being in attendance going forward. Today we're just going to clarify that a little bit differently because we certainly had received some apologies that we actually just want to clarify and make sure we record appropriately. So in this particular instance, we had originally received an apology from Councillor Moriarty. She has subsequently sought leave of absence to be away in an emergent situation, and it's a very, I guess, pleasant emergent situation that she is with her family and certainly some very, very new members of her family requiring her presence there. So she has requested leave of absence for today and for our meeting certainly on the 23rd. So councillors, if we could move please that we grant leave of absence to Councillor Moriarty. So that's been moved by Councillor Cypher. It's been seconded by Councillor Brimblecombe. So councillors, that's what we're doing, is seeking to grant that leave of absence to Councillor Moriarty. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's been carried. So, councillors, now, if you don't mind, that was an explanation of, I guess, just a change from the apologies. We don't have any other apologies for the meeting today, but other leaves of absence. Councillor Daniels?
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. May I please request a leave of absence for next meeting? Thank you.
So that meeting will be for the 23rd of February. Would someone like to move, we grant Councillor Daniels that leave of absence, please? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded by Councillor Burns. So councillors, that's been moved and seconded that we grant that leave of absence for Councillor Daniels for the 23rd. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Councillors, whether we're sitting where we sit in this great local government area or where we sit today in this virtual meeting, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. And I might take the opportunity of acknowledging Kestrel Coal for the production of a wonderful initiative that they're leading in terms of some Indigenous employment opportunities and recognition for the Western Kungaloo people. And certainly we take this opportunity when we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging of the incredible relationship and I suppose initiatives that are still happening around our First Nation people in our local government area, and we acknowledge that work. Now, Tim Sefton, we get to you. Tim is from the Emerald Christian Assembly and a member of the Churches Together, which is a wonderful initiative in our local government area again. We have the opportunity every month to have certainly one of their wonderful participants lead us in prayer, and obviously the chance of perhaps some encouragement and stimulation for us going into a long meeting. No pressure, Tim, but I'll certainly hand over to you if you would like to lead us through at our start of our meeting today. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, Mr. Mayor, and all the councillors. It's a pleasure to lead you this morning to our Lord on behalf of the ECT. But before we pray for your respective responsibilities in today's meeting, let us be guided by God's word through his holy Bible. And in Micah, the prophet said to the people and to the government, "This is what would make the Lord glad, and this is what he requires us to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." Let us pray together. We are reminded today, Lord, that you are a good, good Father. I pray for and lift up our own local leadership for your wisdom and gracious intervention. In appreciation of their service and responsibilities, I bring before you their needs. Thank you for choosing these men and women to serve the people of our region. I pray that you would supply them with renewed vigour to serve the peoples of our communities. Lord God, I pray for outstanding leadership at this time. We look to you for paradigm shifts as needs demand them, and we thank you for your good and gracious favour, which you supply willingly to all those that call upon your name. May each one of us that you have called to lead in this community contribute in ways humble and significant. I pray for united in purpose, so that good strategies and plans may be implemented for the work of good and peace. Dear Lord, please bless the members of the council as they meet, and provide for and protect each of them and their families as they serve you in this community. We look to you, Lord, as our Saviour and Redeemer. Amen.
Thank you, Tim. That'll obviously lead us off today and certainly get us in the right frame of mind. And it's great to hear from leaders in our community and our church communities praying for us and to give us the strength to make the decisions we need to make. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you all. Blessings.
Yep. All right, councillors, we'll move on to, before we move on to the first part of our agenda, and that's to obviously to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting. I do note that as we have been or have and will be conducting meetings in this virtual fashion, that we have actually recorded the suspension of the standing orders to allow us to do that till certainly April. So we have that provision there, so we do so under that acknowledgement that we made at that last meeting. But to do that, we need to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. So that's the General Council meeting that was held on the 28th of January. Would someone like to move those minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Brimblecombe. Seconded, please. Seconded by Councillor Burns. Okay, councillors, as we normally do, can you just, as I said, the reference to certainly those minutes there, we obviously, the first business of the day was obviously the suspension of the standing orders to allow us to conduct the meeting the way that we're currently doing it, and other agenda items there. Is everyone happy that that's the correct record of that meeting? Any comments, notes? Sorry, Councillor Brimblecombe, did you have a note to make?
No, sorry. I was getting ahead of myself and thought we were moving the minutes. Sorry.
No, that's all right, Councillor Brimblecombe. So council's happy with those. Well, we've got a mover there in Councillor Brimblecombe. So we've now caught up. So Councillor Brimblecombe's moved. Is there a seconder, please?
We have Councillor Burns, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Burns, all in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. There is a slight lag there with our voting, councillors, so I will pause there. So if it sounds like I've taken some time, it's only to facilitate just the difference in the speed of the cameras. Any business arising out of those minutes, councillors? All good. Well, councillors, our next agenda item, and we had, I suppose, some discussion about the review of the upcoming agenda items. Our next meeting on the 23rd will, if possible, change the format of that slightly so that I guess our observers get to see our council actually making that agenda section of our meetings an effective and sort of purposeful part of the meeting where we might introduce those things that not necessarily on the agenda, but things we would like to see come back to council in some way, shape or form, whether it's through some information, a report or a decision-making report. But certainly we'll come up with a format for that that'll allow us to probably spend some more time there. So I think it's an important part of our meeting. And whilst we do and have utilised that time to discuss introduction of some of those reports, it'll be useful for our community to see that's how the way that some of their council and elected representatives bring topics to council or seek updates on some of those things that we've either discussed recently or have some had some or deliberations on for some time. So we just want to make sure that there's the opportunity there to have some robust discussion about making sure that the very, I suppose, pretext of why we're here, setting the agenda for our community, is actually seen there, and there is some opportunity to do that. But councillors, as we have been doing now, if there is something else you would like to introduce, we'll obviously use that suggestion of obviously a format where we'll bring those to council next meeting, and we'll give that a workout. But today, for today's purposes, is there any other, I guess you'd say, comments on that upcoming agenda on the basis that we will move into that new format next council meeting? All good? Thank you, councillors, and thank you for that very useful discussion about making sure we use that wisely. Councillors, any conflict of interest that needed to be declared in terms of the agenda today? All good? Thank you, everyone. Councillors, we need to move on then to, I guess you'd say, the business part of our meeting, which is the decision action reports. And the first one comes under 12.1 communities, which is a Central Highlands Science Centre proposal update. This comes under certainly General Manager John McDougall's General Manager role in communities. And I know he has his team here with him today. I'll let John introduce this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors. So through the chair, this report provides an update on the Central Highlands Science Centre's proposal regarding a potential for partnership with council in the delivery of their STEAM projects. That's those science, technology, engineering, art and mathematics programs within the Central Highlands. I'll now pass over to Suzanne Poulter, Manager, Connected Communities, to provide more details on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager McDougall. Through the chair, good morning, councillors. The Central Highlands Science Centre has offered engaging, industry-relevant experiences that foster lifelong curiosity and positive attitudes towards science, technology, engineering, art and mathematics, known as STEAM, to people living in regional Queensland for over 25 years. In September 2020, they opened a new space in Emerald under the trading name of Outback Exploratorium, and this move has propelled the centre forward to seek opportunities to expand, as noted by their proposal to council that we received on the 6th of August 2021. Council has considered this request most recently at a workshop on the 25th of November in 2021 and agreed that conceptually they are committed to supporting the STEAM initiatives in the region delivered through the Science Centre. Councillors discussed the proposal and what assistance could potentially be provided to the Science Centre, and determined that council preferred not to provide substantial in-kind or financial assistance at this time. They did note that they could offer their assistance as a key regional stakeholder by providing feedback to the Science Centre as they draft a regional STEAM strategy. And further to this, that once a STEAM strategy was drafted and in place, there would then be potential for a more formal relationship between the Science Centre and council, such as through a memorandum of understanding or a service level agreement. Councillors noted their great appreciation of the work the Science Centre is doing and commended their efforts to raise the profile of STEAM in the Central Highlands. Councillors, thank you for your time in the 3 meetings held to consider the Science Centre's proposal, and based on your feedback in those discussions, the recommendation before you today comes in 3 parts. That the Central Highlands Regional Council supports the Central Highlands Science Centre in the vision of providing science, technology, engineering, art and mathematics programs in the Central Highlands. Notes that no financial support can be offered at this time, and provides a response to the Central Highlands Science Centre advising that a review of support will take place once a formal strategy has been developed and provided to council for their consideration. And thank you. Over to councillors to consider the recommendation.
Thank you, Suzanne, for that update and acknowledging the fact that we have obviously had an opportunity of discussing joint and several parts of the proposal that was made in a very professional way to our organisation. And I acknowledge to their chair, Bronwyn Roberts and Lisa Caffrey, for the way they've obviously in a very constructive way approached council about obviously furthering this very, very important I guess, continuing an initiative, and I know Councillor Cypher has a relationship going back a long time, that this has been very much a community-driven exercise, and it's had great support, some great sponsors, and obviously they've approached council on the basis of a many and varied opportunity to perhaps partner, and I see the recommendations there. But over to you, councillors, if you have some comments or a query to make. Look, councillors, I might add that, and I guess this is knowledge that's that is generally available, that the Outback Exploratorium was successful in the regional community infrastructure grants round, the first round. So there is an opportunity there for at least, I suppose, without speaking for them, the opportunity of perhaps establishing whatever a permanent site for the activities that they conduct. They're currently leasing. I suspect they want to stay in the same location where they can, but they certainly have an opportunity to do that. I really do fully support the first part of the recommendation in there that unequivocally I think we've indicated that we recognise and support the concepts. I think they're pretty easy to support, and that we would like the opportunity down the track, I guess, in the most effective way possible, if we can, provide a level of support in whatever capacity we have to facilitate some of those activities they might do within the, I suppose you say, the normal, opportunities that we have to do that. It is always difficult for our council, particularly in these tight budget times, to provide financial support. It's probably arguably our most difficult ask, because there are so many things that require our funding, and I'm sure the Science Centre understand that as well. Sorry, the Outback Exploratorium, I've got to keep using the right technology there, but certainly they understand that. But I think we need to communicate very much that this is very much part of our future for the region, in sync with transitional things that are happening in the region, and we should be able to, where we can, keep supporting their concepts, and if it means that the funding they have, and certainly other funding opportunities they would seek, we would continue to be supporters of those opportunities if they can. Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for information too, I believe that I support what you're saying about supporting the Outback Exploratorium. However, I think that for council to be able to look at any sort of sponsorship, we need to have a really good understanding of the organisation's strategic direction, etc. So it's not that we don't support them. It's yeah, we need probably more information, I suppose, as the Exploratorium advances. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Rolfe, and I suspect that in conversations with the group, I mean, the location of this is extremely important in terms of almost like the walk-up, I suppose, accessibility of the working spaces, and certainly there's social enterprise initiative that they're actually working with at the moment, and it would be great to, if there is an opportunity where space and locations are something we generally sometimes do have a little bit of influence over. If there was something that was able to, be shared, I guess those are the sorts of easy things we can do, and we have provided some of that access previously. So if that came around again, I'm sure we could probably find ourselves in that spot. But a good strategy, as you rightly point out, Deputy Mayor, is probably the way to go, and that's provided for in that third part of the recommendation. So look, if there's no other comments, councillors, is someone happy to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Brimblecombe. So councillors, it has been moved and seconded. Councillors, those in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Thank you, John. Thank you, Suzanne. Councillors, the next agenda item is 12.1.2, which is the proposed changes to the terms of reference for our Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group. Certainly comes under John McDougall's hand again, and his team here to support that today. John, if you could lead that off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning again, councillors. As you will be aware, there are an active set of terms of reference for the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group that were developed over 12 months ago now. As a good committee goes, we're always actively seeking to, improve those terms of reference to stay in line with where we need to be, and accordingly, the purpose of today is to make some changes to those terms of reference and seek your approval for that to occur. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Emma Tierney in our Sport and Active Recreation Group, and Emma will walk us through the report, ably supported by Lisa Donlan as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good morning, councillors and ELT. As John mentioned, we have been further developing the terms of reference throughout last year. There is an information report further on in the agenda that provides further information to the reasons why changes are required. The key changes that I'm bringing forward to you today and have been workshopped in a number of meetings last year are the rules around attendance requests and long leave of absences, to move away from geographical locations for community representatives, flexibility to allow community positions to remain vacant if insufficient nominations are received, allowing the group to continue to meet, and to introduce the sport and recreation team staff included as core voting members. There, attached to the agenda is a copy of the track changes for the terms of reference updates. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Emma. Councillors, is there any of the councillors, I guess you'd say, and certainly under Councillor Carpenter, is there any comments that you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we did struggle a lot with the community representatives not attending and not sending in apologies or requests for leave of absence. And so we thought if we can make these few changes and get people there that want to be there, then that's a better way to go. They weren't coerced into being on there, but they were recruited, I suppose. So anyone, it'll be an expression of interest process now to find some more community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mayor. To Emma and Lisa, I did write an email to query about the terms of reference to General Manager of Communities yesterday evening. I'm sorry it was very late, but when looking at the core membership with voting rights, my discussion this morning was about, I had concerns that if there was a couple of councillors not attending a meeting, that there would still be a quorum, and it would be made up mostly of non-councillors. So I'll just say, includes the council staff. So there is I'm not saying it's going to happen at all, but to make sure that it doesn't happen, any projects or ideas that come to that meeting should be, in my mind, should be voted on by all of the councillors, so that we don't have this stop start and take it to the next month's meeting or whatever. That somehow, and Lisa, you might be able to fill it in here as to what changes could be made so that councillors have the right of voting on anything that comes to council. Any recommendations?
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe. Through you, Mr Mayor, I believe that Emma and I discussed some solutions, and Emma has a proposal for Council to consider about further amendments.
Thank you, Lisa. With that risk highlighted, on consideration, it's possible that we could add in a further sentence under the voting members for recommendations to proceed to council, that all councillor members of the group must vote on that matter before that recommendation is put forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
So at the risk of ripping past this, Emma, where would that sit in terms of the agenda page that we're working on today?
That would sit, that sentence, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
Directly under the core voting members.
Okay, so where you got the core voting members there, it would slide in under there.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I apologise. I'm not sure. Emma might be having some IT problems, but yes. So there would be the core member voting rights, the list of who are in there, and then immediately after that, that sentence would slide in to say that no recommendation can be put forward for council consideration without all of the councillor members of the group being advised of it and offered the opportunity to vote and discuss it.
Okay,
so Emma had some specific words. I apologise, Mr Mayor. Those specific words I can find again if you'd like me to repeat them.
Well, it would be good, because I'm just reluctant to adopt this without just seeing what the words will be, because this will be something that we will adopt. So rather than wait, and I'm just thinking of the timeliness of it, if we can have those, Lisa, that'd be great, and so councillors know what those words will be. Councillor Cypher?
It just goes back to that wording, so I might just have to wait till we get the exact wording. I thought it said that last sentence said councillor members, which would still be just the 3 councillors sitting on that committee, if you're calling it councillor members, but that may not have been the exact wording. I thought Councillor Rolfe was referring to all councillors, not just the 3 that sit on that committee.
Councillor Rolfe, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was specifically in the terms of reference, and I'm really sorry, it was on page 111 of our agenda, that your 3 councillor members of that have voting rights, if there were only 1 member there, you'd still have a quorum, but you wouldn't have the councillors on that committee wouldn't have the opportunity to see anything that comes to that advisory group, and it could go to the recommendation could go to council on the voting of mostly council employees. Yeah,
thanks, Councillor Rolfe, and thanks for the clarification. Lisa, you've got some clarification there?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I do. So the sentence that we would add would state, for recommendations to proceed to council, all councillor members must vote on the matter.
All right, so can I just, are councillors happy with that addendum to that? Just bearing in mind that you've got to get the context here. It's an advisory group only. It has the terms of reference, and that would just make that process. There's a check and a balance where it comes back to council to be adopted. But I guess what Councillor Rolfe said before, in the interests of the timeliness and effectiveness, provided that's in there, is that enough comfort for councillors? Councillor Carpenter, you're happy with that? Yes, thank you. Well, that's good. All right, so based on that, is someone happy to can someone move the recommendation that we endorse the terms of reference with that change. So moved by Councillor Roll, seconded Councillor Carpenter. It's been moved and seconded, councillors. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That is carried. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Emma. If you are in fact there, apologies if you've had a few glitches there, but obviously we've achieved what we needed to do. Thank you, John.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Sharon.
Just wanting to give the minute taker a chance to capture that change to the terms of reference on screen, so that we capture that the decision was to support with an amendment.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, sorry, and I can see the cursor moving there now. Apologies, I wasn't actually paying attention to those minutes, CEO. So thank you.
Quite all right, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
Chair, are you happy with the wording now, Madam CEO?
Did you want to capture the changed amendment that we just agreed? Because we had that wording read out. I think it's best to capture that as an alternative resolution. And if you need that read out again, I can read that out.
Sorry, would you mind reading that out again? Sorry, recommendation to proceed to council.
Yep, for recommendations to proceed to council.
Yep.
All councillor members to vote on the matter. I think I've captured that. So that's all councillor members, perhaps in brackets, of the advisory group.
Cast or just vote?
To vote on the matter.
The matter. Yep.
Okay.
To vote.
So there should be, I think, a semicolon after the word include and a capital 4. So the recommendation is actually italicised or indicated there in your notes, Marnie.
Oh.
Yep.
Sorry.
That would be it.
Yep.
All right. Right. Are we happy with that, Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's the wording exactly.
Perfectly. All right. Thanks, Councillor. We've got that recorded correctly. Thanks, CEO. We'll move on. All right. We move now, I guess, to infrastructure and utilities. 12.4.1, which relates to the Australian Government Remote Roads Upgrade Pilot Program. This comes under our Acting General Manager of Infrastructure, Jason Houlihan. So, Jason, if you could get us into this agenda item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, councillors. The report we have today is a federal government grant opportunity titled the Australian Government Remote Roads Upgrade Pilot Program. I'll hand over to our manager, Kim Downey, Manager of Project Management Office, Kim Downey, to run through the eligibility of the funding opportunity. And if there's any specific questions relating to the projects, as the asset owner, I'm happy to take those following Kim's introduction. I'll hand over to Kim now. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councillors. As referenced by Acting GM, this funding opportunity is from the federal government, and it is aimed specifically at providing funds for projects which will improve rural roads that may limit community access, pose safety risks or impact the economic development of the surrounding area. There is a commitment of $150 million for upgrades to unsealed roads to address significant deficiencies. Under this funding round, up to 80% of the project's eligible costs may be covered. To be eligible, the projects proposed must be of a significant length that is unsealed or degraded with a low safety rating. They must not have started, and they must be an improvement. The projects must be road-based, not have significant past investment, and must be considered to have regional importance. Following the release of the funding, the infrastructure team identified 6 road segments as eligible for submission for this funding. These projects, as detailed in the report, include 2 sections of the Yamalafita Road options, Buckland Road, Glenlee Road, Fairburn Dam Roads and Olivevale Road. These 6 projects were presented to and endorsed by the Strategic Program Governance Group, and were assessed via a multi-criteria analysis and prioritised according to the outcome of this. The recommendation for consideration today is that Council submit the 2 highest scoring projects, Buckland Road and Fairburn Dams Road, for funding consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Jason. Councillors, they're the obviously the 2 projects, as Kim pointed out, that obviously received the highest score. Councillors, any comments, questions on that or the multi-criteria assessment? I guess my only comment is that I certainly, whilst in the title of the funding package, or that has been identified as a pilot program, I can only, I guess, make the comment that you would encourage a significantly more bigger investment in the 150 million, bearing in mind this is a federal fund, and clearly I suspect that there will be lots and lots of other local governments in Australia obviously trying to get important projects up, and highlighting the need for, I guess, a more significant infrastructure investment in those communities that have been very, very resilient, certainly in the last couple of years, and are looking to be supported a lot more appropriately. So there are 2. Sorry, Councillor Rolfe.
It's fine, Mayor. Just a comment about both of those roads, not only for our agricultural industries or the people who live on the road, but it's also both those roads will carry a lot of tourism traffic, and as we've seen over the last 18 months or 2 years, the increase of off bitumen camping traffic has been an exponential increase. So it'd be really good to have both of these roads upgraded.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe, and I'm all the luck in the world to us, but let's see how we go. Councillors, they're the 2 recommended, suppose, highly rated projects for us. Is someone happy to move those, please? Moved by Councillor Curtis, seconded Councillor Carpenter. So, councillors, that recommendation is that we have the Buckland Road and the Fairburn Dam Road, and obviously, if this application is successful, council will commit to the inclusion of required funds in the 2023 budget as council's contributions to the project as our part of the commitment there. So, councillors, it's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Councillors, sorry. A comment? All good. Councillors, we move again across sections to our information reports for today's agenda, and that first report will be 14.1.1, which is through our communities under John McDougall's department, is the Creative Cultural Futures and Heritage Action Plan. So a half-yearly update on that plan, which runs through to 2022. So John and his team and Suzanne, I think, will be leading this for us. John, if you could lead us off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning again, councillors. Through the chair, the Arts and Cultural team will be delivering a summary of the progress made over the last 6 months on the Creative, Cultural, Futures and Heritage Action Plan. I'll now hand over to Katerina Hatzi Penigiotis, Coordinator Arts and Engagement to tell you more. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager McDougall. Through the Chair, before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm calling in from today and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'm very excited to be sharing with you today the last 6 months of progress in the Creative Cultural Futures and Heritage Action Plan. While I'm presenting this solo today, the deliverables in this report would not have been possible without the dedicated arts and cultural team. And I would like to particularly shout out Ruth Hayden, who joined the team in August 2021 and has hit the ground running as the Arts and Cultural Officer Galleries. The Creative Cultural Futures and Heritage Action Plan 2020 to 2022 financial years provides a framework to recognise and celebrate the unique and quintessential Central Highlands character and its creative communities. The plan is facilitated by the Arts and Culture team, connected communities and other council staff. We're also supported by the Central Highlands Arts and Cultural Advisory Committee, known as CHRC, and we're also assisted by volunteers. It supports the Creative Cultural Futures and Heritage Strategy, which spans 2016 to 2026. There are 6 strategic priority areas that are used as a framework to deliver on identified outcomes through the strategy and action plan. They are 1, consolidation and revitalisation, 2, community and celebration, 3, regional identity and sense of place, 4, positive partnerships, 5, celebrate diversity, and 6, future direction. I'll now report on the progress of each of the strategic priority areas. Our progress targets were to reach 100% achievement for each of these areas. Priority 1, consolidation and revitalisation, is our largest action plan area, which aims to improve and revitalise regional direction. In this area, we've achieved 100% for the July to December 2021 period. During the last 6 months, we completed installation of wheeled library shelving for Blackwater and Emerald libraries, implemented the use of large TV screens in the art galleries as portable, flexible assets to complement exhibitions where and when needed, touched up paints on gallery plinths, hosted 2 youth exhibitions in our gallery, the Emerald State High School exhibition at the Emerald Art Gallery in December 2021, and Our Lady of the Sacred Heart exhibition in Springshaw in October 2021. We progressed on the development of tenure agreements with Emerald Arts Precinct stakeholders, developed exhibition and program calendars for both art galleries, which includes Emerald Art Gallery being fully booked for 2022 and the Bohemia Bicentennial Art Gallery booked for the first 6 months solidly, with a few gaps in late 2022, filled with both local, regional and touring exhibitions. We reviewed the outcomes of the art collection condition reports and environmental control reviews for gallery storerooms, ran engagement sessions for the Arts Precinct facelift, including in-person consultations and an online survey, supported the delivery of the Seniors Annual Luncheon and also held smaller Seniors Connection events across all library branches, continued the home library service and tech-savvy seniors programs, and undertook outreach with Gemfields artists to help develop and promote their work. The second strategic objective is community and celebration, which encourages consultation, cooperation and participation in community arts and cultural activities and programs. In this area, we've achieved 100% of our target. Community celebrations include youth workshops and school holiday activities around the region, spotlight on video about our local artist Gemma Isherwood, who won the Acquisitive Award at the Annual Art Awards in Emerald 2 years in a row. The Regional Arts Development Fund Showcase exhibited in the Emerald Art Gallery. RADF Round 1, where $13,834 was granted to 3 local projects. Monthly newsletters and ad hoc opportunities shared with the Central Highlands Regional Galleries mailing list. Arts in August events, including our incredibly popular Flipside Circus workshops with over 600 participants over 3 days. holding our annual competition, the Annual Art Awards Emerald, and participation in the Rockhampton Museum of Art selection panel for their inaugural Artist in Residence program. Photos on the slide there are a series of promotional graphics for our Arts Around August program. The Annual Art Awards Emerald showcased 148 entries with a record number 300 people attending the opening night and awards ceremony. Identified from that event was an increase in youth participation and as an exceptional quality of work, which impressed our judge, Sue Smith, who even recommended the youth have their own showcase. Images on the slide from the Annual Art Awards include our Acquisitive Award winner, Gemma Isherwood, with Judge Sue Smith and Mayor Hayes. Gracie goes back with her highly commended entry Peony in the youth section and other youth entries on display. So I'd now like to take a moment to show you our spotlight video of Gemma's. I'm not sure if we're able to get sound to come through.
Sorry, through the Mayor. Sorry, there's no sound. We've had to change computers this morning and there's a bit of a glitch there. Sorry about that. I wasn't aware that there was a video within the presentation.
All right, thanks, Katarina. Look, I guess rather than I miss out on that opportunity, if there's some other way we can share that, we'll certainly get it to councillors. And is it available and accessible on our website?
Yes, absolutely available on the website, has been posted on our Facebook page and is on the council YouTube as well. So I'm happy to send that link out to councillors for reference after our meeting today as well.
That'd be great. Thank you very much, Katarina. And I think for those that have met Gemma, she's an incredible talent. We obviously are now custodians of some of her best work. So they are incredible. I'm not sure exactly where they're located, certainly in our place, but an incredible young talent in our midst. So it certainly was a great night and certainly was shared with a lot of people in the community. I think they inspire quite a lot of our artists and certainly community to be involved. So thanks, Katarina.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Our third priority area is regional identity and sense of place to promote community identity, cultural tourism and the heritage unique to Central Highlands to encourage visitors to our local towns and surrounding areas to boost the regional economy. In this area, we've achieved 100% of our target, including 82 historical records being digitised with the Book-i scanner, including photographs and newspaper clippings. We've held 4 CHRC meetings, hosted a flood call-out day at the Emerald Library to collect items for the collection, recorded 2 oral history stories and made them available on Montage, the library's online catalogue, kept our CHRC members list up to date, had media releases for our 2 signature events, Arts Around August and the Annual Art Awards Emerald, and engaged in annual art, cultural and heritage network opportunities promoted through our galleries, community reference group and CHRC mailing lists, media releases, radio ads, and posted on our Central Highlands Regional Galleries and Council Facebook pages. So this is just a small collection of photos that have been digitised from our historical collection. These are from the Gilderley collection from 1950. So there was the Fernleys photo on the previous page, and on this page we see the Dennis family at Yeppoon, the baling of fleece, a QBCF harvester, and a QBCF elevator. So all of these are available on the freely to the public on the council catalogue. Priority Area 4 is positive partnerships to foster strategic partnerships to improve and enrich arts and cultural communities. We've achieved 100% of our target by partnering with Arts Queensland, who have granted council $39,500 for the RADF program, promotion of grant funding opportunities such as RADF and other external grant opportunities through the gallery's mailing list, monthly newsletters and Facebook posts. Use Arts Around August as a platform to host touring and local artist activities ranging from printmaking, painting, wire art, crochet and comedy in a variety of venues across the region. The Emerald Art Gallery was open to visitors during the twilight markets in September and December, which saw over 500 visitors come through the space, plus hosting activities for children including a treasure hunt with a prize and Christmas ornament decorating. And the gallery Facebook page is updated frequently with upcoming events and exhibitions happening in the galleries and the wider artist community. And the platform also promotes other opportunities further afield to keep our community connected with the arts and cultural sector beyond our borders. Here we have a list of partnerships that we foster in the community. And our photos here are from our Seniors Week luncheon, the entertainment that we had on the day. Photo from our community connectivity and creativity exhibition opening at the Emerald Art Gallery. Youth works from the Our Lady of the Sacred Heart exhibition in Springshaw, and Councillor Moriarty with two of our seniors at the seniors luncheon. Priority Area 5, to celebrate diversity, strikes to embolden and recognise the strengths that diversity brings to the Central Highlands communities. We achieved 100% of our target in this area with the Reconciliation Action Plan and ongoing commitment in the Central Highlands, which you'll hear about more when the Community Development team presents their report on the 9th of March. NAIDOC events held in Emerald, Blackwater and Springshaw with local communities. Working with Camille Swallow to develop an exhibition to be displayed in the Emerald Art Gallery in May 2022. Camille is an Indigenous artist who practices a traditional dot painting style and is meticulous and full of story in her work. And these images here are from the NAIDOC celebrations in Emerald. Our final priority, Area 6, Future Direction, encompasses strategically developing and innovating planning for the future of arts, culture and heritage within the Central Highlands. We've achieved 100% of our target here with the delivery of training in Doringa by CHRC around community recovery, additional training scheduled around copyright and RADF grant writing, which will be delivered in the second half of the financial year. Other trainings have also been suggested by the CHRC and are being investigated to support development in the community. And we've reviewed and updated our future aspirations document. You'll see here from our figures that the Creative Cultural Futures and Heritage Action Plan is 100% complete for the period of July to December 2021 across all strategic priority areas. Coming up in January to June 2022, we will be holding our signature event, the Annual Art Awards Springshaw, for which entries are still open if there is anyone who has a piece to submit. We're very excited to host a new event holding an inaugural Youth Art Award for young people in our region. We have Medal in March 2022. We'll be continuing our Spotlight On video series and a number of exhibitions across our regional galleries, including local, regional and national touring exhibitions. Thank you from the Arts and Cultural team. Councillors, we really appreciate all your support by attending events, in approving our budgets, liaising with community and being our champions in advocating for arts, culture and heritage. We'd also like to thank our colleagues from across Council, from Parks and Gardens, Finance, Public Relations and Events, Customer Service and Facilities, and our many community supporters and stakeholders. Without all of you, we would not be able to do what we do. And a big thank you to our Connected Communities team for their ongoing support to run our events like our exhibition openings. I'll now hand over to councillors for any questions.
Thanks, Katarina, and as usual, a very comprehensive and very interesting report. Over to you, councillors. Comments, questions or otherwise? Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Katarina, thank you very much for the report. It's great to see those achievements. And my question is around like the art galleries, and it's great to hear that the gallery is fully booked. Both galleries are fully, or sorry, Emerald Gallery is booked for this year. How do you balance, I guess, that opportunity to encourage local artists, but also bringing in, you know, artists from other areas?
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Through the chair, it is a bit of a balancing act, and we do try to look at the calendar overall to make sure that we have got a balance across not just local and touring exhibitions, but different subject matter, different mediums, and providing opportunities intimately as well for you know, our young people and emerging artists to be able to exhibit. So we do look at the calendar holistically to make sure that we do have a varying program that shows the breadth of art that's available to us to be able to present to the community, but make sure that we give our emerging artists opportunities to exhibit as well. So having competitions like the Art Awards are a really great way to help develop artists to start producing some work. We often try to then scaffold them into group exhibitions. So for example, later in the year, we'll have 3 or 4 local artists collaborating to do one exhibition together in the Emerald Art Gallery, and that'll be across a variety of mediums. But finding ways like that to encourage local artists to be able to exhibit without necessarily having to fill an entire gallery space is part of what we do in putting together that calendar.
Great, thank you very much. And just a second question. I think I've raised it in the past, but I've always loved the idea of supporting our, you know, I guess the commercialisation of our artists' work. Is there any opportunity, I guess, for, or have you thought any further about whether there's an opportunity to present more online? And it's also not just for selling, I guess it's also for people that can't make it into the 2 art galleries that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, that has been a focus for us, especially in the last few months, as we understand that attendance at the galleries is limited for some people. So for our current exhibition that we have in the Emerald Art Gallery, Lynn Laver Armart, we have sought her permission to display her exhibition digitally as well, so for that to be available online. And we'll be seeking to do that in future as we continue, you know, as much as possible to be able to present our exhibitions online in a digital gallery as well. And we have been, while we are not holding as many events as we normally would, been creating more digital content, be it videos or interviews with the artist or other walkthroughs of the space to be able to make that more accessible to the community who otherwise would have been attending or who maybe wouldn't have even had the opportunity to come through and are now able to access that.
Thank you, that's great to hear.
Thank you, Katarina. Any other questions, councillors? All right, councillors, the recommendation there in respect of that update is that we received that. Is someone happy to move that we received that report? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded Councillor Curtis. So, councillors, that's in respect of receiving the half-yearly Creative Culture Futures and Heritage Action Plan update, and that's for July-December 2021. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Thank you very much, Katarina. Thank you, John. We stay with communities under item 14.1.2, which relates to the record of proceedings for the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group. So, John and your team might kick that one off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a procedural issue, I suppose, a record of proceedings here for the SARAG, the Sport and Active Recreation Advisory Group. As we heard earlier in the agenda, we've had a terms of reference change there, but this is procedurally about, you know, looking at the minutes. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Lisa Donlan, Manager Parks and Recreation, to walk through the report. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Communities. Mr. Mayor, through you, the information report that we've provided informed changes to the terms of reference for the Sport and Active Advisory Group that was adopted by Council earlier today. The issue for discussion is that those terms of reference, the previous version and the current version, require the lodging of the minutes of the group to Council. The last quorum that we were able to achieve in the group was on the 19th of May. However, the minutes couldn't be adopted of that meeting at later meetings because no quorum could be achieved. What we have provided with this report is a record of proceedings for the informal discussions on the 19th of May, the 22nd of July, the 30th of December, I beg your pardon, the 30th of September and the 1st of December. Thank you.
So just in terms of clarification there, Lisa, they are obviously, the reference you're making there about quorum relates to just, I guess you'd say, notes of the discussions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. Because we couldn't achieve a quorum, we couldn't formally adopt the minutes of the previous meeting. So they've just been submitted as a record of discussions and proceedings. Okay.
All right. Could I just ask, CEO, do you have a comment there to make in respect of that? Are you happy with that as a procedurally an appropriate sort of, I suppose, adoption method?
Yes, Mayor, as long as we're clear that they're just being noted.
Yep. No, look, and that's fine. And I guess relying on, I suppose, some comments made this morning on that previous agenda item that Lisa alluded to, you know, if it becomes an issue to get a quorum, I guess we'll be seeing some of these proceedings, but it would certainly be obviously far more desirable that we actually get those community representatives and people at those meetings. So is there any thoughts perhaps on how we achieve that a little better, team? And I'm happy to hear from anyone there.
Yeah, I think the previous item at the council meeting dealing with the terms of reference changes is the attempt to achieve a quorum.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Lisa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think the changes that Council approved this morning will allow us a great deal of flexibility that we didn't have about being able to find community representatives from across the region, and that will certainly help with the with achieving a quorum, and then some processes as well, which will allow us to adopt the minutes.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Councillors, questions? Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor Hayes. Look, I find it hard to follow. I'm not a member of this group, so I'm finding it hard to follow the minutes there's action tables of the 3 minutes, there's action tables on 2 of those minutes, and maybe they're just, but the thing I'm finding is that, say we go back to the July meeting, you note the actions, but then they're not carried through, that action table isn't carried through to the next minutes and the meetings after. So I actually never know, I can't figure out what the outcome of that action is because the information is not there. So for me as somebody, as a councillor who was not on that meeting, I really would like to see that flow through of the action plus the update plus the resolution. Thank you.
Councillor Rolfe.
Similar, Mayor, similar comments to Councillor Daniels, but I also have a question. Are we able to ask about minutes that are just for noting, or can we ask about actions out of those minutes?
Yes, Councillor.
Sharon, you want to make a comment, do you?
Yes, councillors are free to ask questions in this open forum.
Thank you. So on page 147, there's an item there about rhino tanks for Springsure, Rolleston, Capella. I see that there is a note in a subsequent meeting about that, but can somebody, what, has anything happened to that? Or, yeah, where's it up to, please?
Mr Mayor, through you, Councillor Rolfe, that has advanced to a budget bid for next year under the CAPEX program, but that hasn't been through SPGG or any of those internal council processes yet, but it has been moved forward by staff for consideration.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it there. Thanks, Mayor.
Lisa, just to, I suppose this is not so much a question about those minutes, but certainly relating to process there. I noticed in one of the, I think in the minutes that you actually adopted there in relation to the karting club, they've subsequently, and I know there's a whole, I guess, litany of work and approaches and operational activities through the organisation. They've applied for that lighting opportunity through the community's infrastructure fund as well, regional resource communities. Do we have sort of like, I suppose this is probably a bit of a broader question. I mean, are a number of our clubs, organisations actually seeking to do that rather than it being sort of, I suppose, an approach to council for their support and vice versa?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's there's certainly consultations that are going on with all of the clubs across the region in regards to what their wishes or aspirations are for the spaces that they're in and how they might be able to achieve those. And part of that discussion is always an explanation about the possibilities through internal council procedures. And we always will also discuss the possibility of clubs going for funding directly themselves and how council can support those applications as well, given that for some of the, particularly the larger sporting organisations, they may have the resources to be able to acquit a large grant. So generally we're aware of the clubs that have those ambitions and we'll work with them either for internal funding or external wherever we can.
Yeah, it was just, you know, and then the obvious implication of, you know, the club being successful, but it being on our, you know, on our tenure. So how does that work, I guess you'd say? Yes, Mr Mayor. And in response to that, we do have a process where we'll take clubs through what's necessary
for them to do for particular actions on our land to go ahead. So the approvals that might be necessary, the discussion with other users of the facilities, and we've got guides that we've put together for community organisations that talk about all of those aspects that need to be resolved before they go forward for a funding application independently of council.
Right. Thanks, Lisa. And I don't want to distract the conversation away from just these minutes, but it just certainly it's interesting because you know, clearly it's a very competitive area, and I guess with, you know, some of the impacts of you know, certainly the circumstances we currently all find ourselves in, you know, it is becoming really, really important for viability and certainly continuity that there will be more and more applications for funding wherever it might be. So I guess our support is always good, but it's that partnership approach to those things would be good as well, given that, you know, the tenure is very, very important. So, councillors, any other questions on the minutes and the records? Thank you. Well, look, the recommendation is there to receive the record of proceedings for the group for the meeting on the 19th of May, and then the informal discussion records from those subsequent meetings. And we do note, obviously, and it's been recorded, Councillor Daniels's, I suppose, request in respect of where actions and are sort of, I guess, progressed, so that we can see those. So, is someone happy to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Carpenter, seconded Councillor Rolfe. So, councillors, that recommendation has been moved and seconded. All in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. Carried. Councillors, we move on to item 14.2 under corporate services, which is our people and culture Q2 report. In terms of timeliness, councillors, just in terms of an appropriate break away from our council meeting at the end of this report, we'll take a break. So I'll hand over to General Manager Margaret Gatt to lead this report with her team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, councillors. Without further ado, I'll just hand straight over to Tanya Lowe, who is now not our acting manager People and Culture, but our formal manager People and Culture, to present our quarterly report. Thanks, Tanya.
Through the chair, thank you, General Manager Marg, and hello to the councillors and to members of the executive leadership team. Thanks for having me here today to talk through our quarterly report, just to give you an overview, I guess, the statistics of where we're currently standing with our workforce. So, Marnie, if we can go just through to the page one, I'll talk you through where we're up to. So this is really just a snapshot of our total workforce, just to give you an idea of where we're sitting. So that number of 456 for our workforce makes up our employees under the certified agreement, our contracted employees, as well as our labour hire staff that make up the work that we're doing for council at the moment. In the numbers, you can just see a comparison between Q1 through to Q2, which is that period from October through December 31st, and the changes we've got there as a bit of a state of flux through our recruitment as well as our exits. You can see there's a bit of a the number that stands out to me is the fixed term appointments. We've seen an increase in those in that period of October, December. That's for a range of reasons. Some of them are due to the projects or the funding specific work that we have on, which is why we put people on a temporary or a fixed term appointment. But also a majority of those are that opportunity where we're getting to grow our own talent, and we're having people who are either going on either parental leave or going off to take on higher duties or seconded roles, and we're having to backfill different positions. So they're done on a fixed term arrangement rather than a permanent position. And then as you can see, our gender split remains fairly consistent, as is our diversity within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander mix within the workforce, which is reflective of our community. To our next slide, Marnie. Thanks. And then this page just gives you a bit of a footprint of where our employees. So if we break down just the total employees, it's 435 staff for us, and that equates to 411 full-time equivalent workers across the organisation, and just where you can see that split between indoor and outdoor workers. And just to classify again, that's people, our indoor workers are people who are on contracts or are paid by Stream A under our award, and then Stream B and C are classified as our outdoor workers, just to give you some definition around that. And then to our next page. And then we have our turnover. We're up slightly. Our previous turnover was 6% for the quarter, and this one being slightly high, which isn't too unusual for that end of year. We do tend to normally see a slightly higher turnover than bigger around that new year end period. And again, the trend for us that I'm monitoring is where those people are leaving us are coming from, and it's remaining consistent, which is that 1 to 5 year break, as well as that age bracket between that 21 to 30-year bracket is where we're seeing our staff leave. And so that's where we're focusing some of our attention on those areas as well. Thanks, Barney. Now on to recruitment. So with this one, so 71 vacancies we had come through the recruitment team. You'll see that 88 were advertised. Sometimes we'll need to re-advertise positions or try different tactics for how we're going to attract applicants, because you'll see our ratio. So if we're looking at 306 applicants to those 88 vacancies, I think that works out to be just about 3.5, I think it works out to be staff-wise, which is significantly down from 12 months ago, but that's pretty consistent when I've been contacting some of our other council partners in different regions. It's consistently that message across Queensland. People are struggling to get applications through just from the pure volume of available vacancies out there at the moment. It's also not unusual in that October, December to have probably our least amount of starters. What we will tend to have is a bit of a flurry towards the end of the year, and then people get pushed over to start in the new year, so start in that January. And then of course we've had to do some work this period with COVID on how we're going to bring those people on to onboard them successfully. So we've had to move very quickly into working out how we bring people into the organisation when we're working in such different circumstances. And again, that consistent statistic where half of our people that we hire are internal transfers, which is a great thing to have, but it's also then keeping that sort of backflow of effect. Most of those new starters in that quarterly period were more indoor workers, as I'm working with the infrastructure teams and soon the parks and gardens teams. We've been having conversations around just how we can look at reshaping some of those hard to find roles and those labour intensive positions to make them more attractive, to change up what we're doing so we can get a different outcome. And I also mentioned in the last report that we were planning on going out into the community to do some career information sessions. So we did actually get to go around to all those areas, which was great. We were hoping to do that again this quarter, based with the COVID that we're going, restrictions we're going to at the moment. We're looking at how we can do that online, just as an alternative. So we're still connecting with the community and we're being consistent with that approach, and perhaps introducing things that are a bit more value add, like doing some workshops around how to write a resume, those types of things that might be providing some hindrance to some people as well. And hopefully we can get back out in front of people as soon as we're able to. And over to the next slide. Thanks, Marnie. And so on to training and development. So, so this is focusing on plant and equipment, all the training and development opportunities we've had for our workforce. And I've put in some different information here just to, I guess, give you some understanding of the amount of work we're working with our staff to upskill them. And so when someone goes through to get a certificate, say that they can actually work a piece of equipment, for example, they have a competency level that they need to pass and actually do that. So we had 18 people complete that. Part of that process is, though, they do need to complete logbooks. And logbooks means they've actually had an understanding that that piece of equipment, they've gone and done 20 to 30 hours of study or buddy system alignment with that person to do some training, and then actually get their competency level. And so we're having this really lovely funnel effect where we're actually increasing this more internally rather than having to send people out externally to different training providers. And so we're having this happen internally, so people are learning them. Once they've got their competency, we then have another safeguard where we actually verify their competency. So similar to if someone comes to us and they have all these tickets to say they can do all these pieces of equipment, we want to make sure they can do them safely on our machinery at council as well. And so we do have Sean, who's commenced with us last October, I think it was, who's now come on board to try and expedite this process for us, rather than again relying on external contractors or consultants to verify the competency of our staff. So we're seeing some really good inroads with that, and have a really good plan over the next 1 to 2 years just to increase that upskilling with our workforce. So that's a really good win for our people and culture team. On to the next slide. Thanks, Marnie. And so this one's just on other forms of training. So last quarter we had, I think it was 192 pieces of training. And so Q2, we saw that increase to 247 across the organisation. So those training sessions will change each quarter depending on what's required from a legislative point of view or what the organisation needs from a mandatory point of view. You see a lot of people going through our general induction. That's based on our new we call it Telstra, which is our online learning system. So we've gone through and redone our general induction, and everyone is actually going through that process. So we're at the tail end of all of our employees going through that now, but a wide range of training that we've done throughout the last quarter. And then on to the next slide. Thanks, Marnie. And here's just some highlights, I guess, from training development. So the new qualifications are all stemming from our infrastructure and utilities department, being across civil construction and diesel fitting. And one of the highlights that we had was our Lgma Rural Challenge. So we have, if you're not aware of what that is, it's a really exciting concept that Lgma put on, and we compete against other councils from Central Queensland. This year we were the host, so that was actually really exciting. So we had 4 employees across the organisation from ICT, communities and infrastructure all form a team, and then they're actually supported by mentors. So we had Beck from customer service be their mentor, and then different members of the executive leadership team be involved, as well as volunteers. And so it's a really big couple of days where they all get to form teams and become a bit of a mock council and have things thrown at them, and they have to get together and work out how they're going to solve situations. And it's a great way for us to sort of develop those talented people within our organisation, expose them to different things. And we're looking forward to hopefully bettering. We didn't win this year, which was a bit unfortunate, but I'm hoping that it's in Rocky this year that we can form another great team and do our hardest and maybe come away with the chocolates this year. And then, as you can see, another very important topic for us is domestic and family violence. So making sure that we're keeping up those information sessions, making sure people know they've got support, and providing them across the region where we can. And again, that verification of competency is something I'm really keeping an eye on to make sure that we're keeping on that from a risk perspective across the organisation. And that, Marnie, I think is it. And so just from my perspective, what we're doing with the ELT as well is just having a look at all the statistics that we think are relevant and important for councillors to know about, and how we actually, what we look at reporting to you, and maybe coming back with some of the strategic plans and priorities that we've got in place and reporting on those, and then maybe providing you with these briefings in a different format. So we'll come back to you once we've got that finalised with the executive leadership team. But happy to take questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Tanya, and certainly on behalf of Council, congratulations on being appointed to your position. I guess all of us have watched you present and be involved in different parts of agenda items coming to the boardroom, and very, very pleased to see you take this role. Councillors, over to you. Questions? Councillor Daniels.
Thank you. Look, it's a half comment, half question. I guess it's good to hear of the initiative that you want to go out into the community and see if there's some more we can do to, I guess, support recruitment of people? Because I always look at, I guess I look at that number with applications and then wonder how many are meeting our mandatory requirements and whether there's ever a barrier there with our mandatory requirements for people to be recruited into CHRC. What's your thoughts there, Tanya?
Sure, through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Daniels. It's something that we've done a lot of work on. I think when I first came to council, that was definitely a hard barrier, and people had to meet those requirements. Otherwise, they didn't get through the door. That's completely changed, where we're working with people who have the right values and the right input. And if we can get them to where they can get that mandatory requirement in a training that we can help support them with as they go through, we're being really open to that. And that's part of the reasons why we wanted to get out and start doing some of those community sessions, so we can explain that and we can start getting more people to apply so they can see us as where they can grow and develop with us. So that's not seen as a barrier of entry. And that's something we have a lot of conversations with people when they're looking at applying. So the recruitment team field a lot of phone calls, and we certainly go back to people when they've applied and maybe they haven't gone through that time, but it's like, please reapply again, and this is, what we can do to help support you through that process.
Great to hear. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tanya. Tanya, I know it's related and it probably has some connections to some other initiatives in the organisation, but I suppose we've got a national unemployment rate now that's getting very close to 4%, and we've always been 0.5% improved on that, I guess, if that's such a thing, in that our market has always been pretty tight. Is there sort of, I suppose, in terms of, I know we do exit interviews, and I suppose the work you've done, is I suppose the attracting, retaining thing around some other factors as well, I guess you'd say, that are still relevant?
Yeah, that there's a whole range of reasons, and I wish I could just narrow it down and say it's one specific thing, but we do get a variety of reasons for people coming. The consistency, so when I was looking at the 1 to 5 year bracket and that age bracket, if I'm looking at those, typically the reasons are they do come down to some financial concerns because of the people that we're seeing that are leaving the organisation, the lifestyle benefits and the stability and those types of things that council is really attractive to probably isn't the attractive piece for them. So we certainly are competing on salary, and so we need to do a better job, and that's what we're wanting to look at our employer branding and do more work around that, on how we make that livability piece and how we highlight the stability and the flexibility and all the different things that we can offer people and make that the most attractive thing to attract them. Because I think once we attract the people who are connected to those things, then it makes it much easier to retain them.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. I know it'll be an ongoing, I guess. It'll never end that, but I guess there's an interesting set of factors, I guess, certainly in area and others. And I know that like you, speaking to colleagues in local government around, not only as in general employment, but then I guess you'd say specifically to local government, there is some turnover, and I guess I suppose I didn't know whether you wanted to share your observations from some of those other local governments.
Yes, and it is quite similar, because a lot of those local areas, particularly in the more rural areas, where their councils have actually been the stable employer, and so most people gravitate towards that. But as other industries are certainly doing well, there are jobs just everywhere at the moment, and particularly with, as we know, that the mining sector plays a big impact where we are, and so we're seeing a lot of people go and chase those types of either the financials or the different training skills they can get. And so that's why I'm quite passionate about really talking about the training opportunities that we can provide for people once they come on board, so they can see how well we can upskill them and look after them as just another factor. And that's something that I think that we're doing particularly well, but maybe some of our other councils may not be doing that bit on that side as yet.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. CEO Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to add one thing to Tanya's observations there, you may have read terminology, councillors, coming out through the news and socials at the moment about the Great Resignation phenomenon. It's being talked about quite a lot, and this is a trend referring to record numbers of people leaving their jobs after COVID-19 impacts. So yes, if you haven't read it yet, we are in an environment where many people are leaving work, choosing to travel, choosing other lifestyles, using up all their leave that they haven't been able to use for a long time, and that is impacting on all employers, not just in local government sector.
And through the chair, if I can add to that as well, so we're seeing that a lot even in the commercial sector, where people are not wanting to actually return to the workplace because they've seen this balance now, and so companies are having to move quite quickly on how are they going to keep that knowledge base present with their workforce, but not necessarily have them on site. Certainly seeing that as a huge trend. So it's something we're certainly going to have to discuss and look at from our own perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya, and thank you, CEO Sharon. I even see the Federal Treasurer encouraging people to consider all their opportunities. So I guess it's not just it sort of defies the old I suppose it's the old tenures of things, because it's more or less saying, the whole thing's changed, all the options are on the table, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with anywhere, let alone certainly in our local government land. But I suppose we've just got to focus on those good livability factors that we are successful at, but it will require some work. I don't see this changing anytime soon. It'll be a trend, I think, for the next couple of years, until there's certainly not a normalcy, but creeping back in, but certainly what the accepted, I suppose, tenets will be going forward. But it's certainly been a big change. But look, thank you, councillors. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you to Margaret for introducing the report. That recommendation there is that we obviously received that report, which is for the period 1 October to 31st December 2021. Would someone like to move that recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded Councillor Rolfe. So, councillors, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All of those in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. That's carried. Thank you again, Tanya. Look, officers, councillors, it is just after 10:30. We'll make it a 20-minute break. We'll adjourn the meeting now at 10:32, and we'll come back at as 10 to 11 and commence our meeting. There's a couple of agenda items there that we'll deal with after our break, but we'll come back at 10:50, councillors and officers. Thank you.
Yes, we're back on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Marnie. Well, welcome back, councillors, certainly to our executive leadership team, CEO and other council officers and guests to the meeting this morning. We'll resume our meeting at 10:52. We are functionally 80% through our meeting today. Our next agenda item is one of our guests whom we have regularly and who we know well. This is the Service Level Agreement Quarter 2 update from Arjun Bloomer, our CEO at CHDC. So Arjun's joining us this morning to present this. So Arjun, I'm sure that you can hear and see us. You could start your report. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Just checking in if everyone can hear me loud and clear. All good then. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present the service level agreement for the second quarter of this financial year, so October through to December 22. And for me, it always fills me with proud. With a proud feeling, if you look at all the accomplishments and all the work that we've done for our business community in the Central Highlands. I assume that everyone has read the document, so I'll just focus on some of the highlights, and then I'm happy to take any questions that people might have. I think one of the major things is the implications of COVID and the mandates that we have laid upon us in that quarter. Overall, we see that the business community has been really adapting well to the changes and the mandates, and I'll get back to that a little bit more. From a finance perspective, we've submitted our first draft of the funding request to Council, which is very much in line with last year's. We are in a financially healthy position, delivering our initiatives within the budgets that are allocated, and that's a great thing. We are finalizing our operational plan for next financial year, which we will be able to share with Council by the end of February. So that's from a finance perspective. From an administration perspective, we always strive to, because we have our 80% local spend, we always strive to pay the businesses that we work with on a very short notice. And in this quarter as well, we managed to aim to sit at a 3.5-day average when we that we pay the invoices after receipt. Our goal is to pay within 5, so we are well within our goal. And our new administration officer started early January, which means that we now have some plans in place to better leverage the technology that we're working with and get less paperwork through the office and leverage more the zeros and other finance administration tools that we have. We also implemented mandatory vaccinations for our frontline workers. The most obvious one are reception and visitor center, but also the staff in the office that have regular visits and regular interactions with businesses. For our back office staff, there's no mandate. We followed Council with the default workplace being from home, and it meant that we had to have an extra Zoom license, but we are now fully operational, working from home and only coming into the office on occasion. If we look at business and investment attraction, this quarter was all about providing high quality, accurate and reliable data. We have received a lot of requests from businesses to provide us with data, geographic data, investment data, whether it's the waste to energy plant, whether it's a hotel that are looking to build in the Central Highlands, oilseed processing. We are becoming more and more the go-to place because people know that we have the data, and the data is very reliable. And that is partly because we have seen an uplift in the funding that we receive to actually have access to that data. We progressed with the CH Invest concept. We now have 5 entities on board to develop that. We are working with some other organizations, mining organizations, to build that out so we can start that project as well. We have done a lot of advocacy for our region and helping to drive better outcomes. We are members of a lot of organizations, and we drive actually a lot of initiatives, including things like the CRC time, Transition in Mining Economies, where we are the Secretariat of the Bowen Basin region, but also the leading role that we play with the Queensland Local Content Leaders Network. And we have contributed to some documentation that is now being looked at by state government to define what means local and what means local spend, and how can they stimulate organizations to actually spend locally. So we've done a great deal in that advocacy, which is great, including the Robotics Australia group. They're still looking to get an answer back from federal government on their MMI grant application, and we hope to get some good news from Canberra in the coming weeks. We developed quite a bit of collateral in the last quarter, including our annual report, which was completed for the AGM in November 21. We also launched recently our economic profile, which is sort of our Bible when it comes to data. It collects all the data in our region, from tourism, number of visitors, the mining output, the size of our agricultural economy. All the data is in there, and I believe that the hard copy was sent out to council. We've distributed it through our networks and online, and we received really good feedback of that. And we are close to finalizing our development register for 2022 as well, which contains the major projects in our region. If you look at our visitor economy, that is one of the areas that where we feared most that they would be hit hard by COVID-19, with workforces that potentially might leave. And we were present at some of the meetings that some groups in Central Highlands organized to listen. We didn't actively participate in that meeting, we just wanted to understand their concerns, and we follow up with those businesses after the meetings, offering our support, our help to actually implement those mandates. The good thing is that many of the concerns that were expressed at those meetings didn't come through. So the amount of people actually leaving and resigning in the hospitality industry that people feared for wasn't as bad as thought. Little update on GemFest. It looks like it's going to continue. We stepped in as CHRC to take the single committee role that was left, the president role. So there was one member on the committee, but we managed to mobilize the Gemfields community, and it looked like it's going to push ahead. There's going to be a little bit of a different setup. The event will be mainly around Sapphire and Rubyvale, and less in the Anarchy region. We hope to report out on that in the near future. You might have seen some of the rollout of the brand awareness. If you go to the Central Highlands Marketplace, we got a massive billboard up now. We have one of the hallways completely covered in with our tourism outings. We have new videos released and being played at the Emerald Airport. So we are pushing hard to get our brand out there. And the good thing is that it is also adopted by the tourism operator community. The number of downloads that we see for our toolbox with videos and images and logos has seen a big uptake, and we really see then the businesses getting ready for the next season. One of the other things that we've been doing is working with the producers of Taste of Australia with Hayden Quinn. You might know the television series where they go into a region and actually highlight tourist attractions and the local produce. To be able to produce an episode, it costs about $35,000 to $40,000, and we managed to gather a group of local producers and tourism organizations to be able to fund one of the episodes. They're going to be in our region in April, and then in winter it will be broadcasted on Channel 10, but also on Qantas in flight. It's going to be broadcasted in New Zealand, in 8 countries in Asia, and Canada also bought the series. So it's really good exposure for us, and we're very happy that we have partners on board. One of the other big things that we organized is the AgTech 21, close to 300 visitors. Now there's always lessons learned that we like to do better next time, particularly around the ratio of having the agri-businesses versus having people that are there with trade stalls and things like that. So that we need to have a better balance there. But overall, it was very successful. We managed to get 57 partners on board, which made it a cost-neutral, high-quality event. What I particularly personally like is that we managed to engage with young students in the Central Highlands region who attended and actually signed up for whether it's the Drones in School project or even 2 students who got an apprenticeship with 2 of the attendees. And that aligns very well with what we do with the Ag Careers Expo. 260 visitors showcasing that working in agri is it's not just sitting on a horse and mustering cattle, but it's all about new technologies, drones, precision ag, and things like that. And the feedback was extremely well, and we are currently planning a next one, an Ag Careers Expo in midst of March. We've also planned our 2022 calendar with the 3 forums: Economic Futures Forum, Tourism and Events, and Resource Innovation Forum. The good thing is that they are spread out across the year, but we have already secured major partnerships, the Diamond and the Gold partnerships for those events. So that is a good thing to have because it allows us to deliver high quality. And lastly, I think we have our board agenda planned. We're very pleased that we'll be going out into the region. The first one is on the 14th of March in Capella. And that meeting includes what we call a chairman's lunch, where we invite 8 to 10 local businesses to join the board for lunch and enrich the board with insights and challenges and opportunities that those people see. So the next one will be in Rubyville in April, and then June Blackwater and Springshore later in the year. So we're very pleased to go out into the region. And then there's a lot of data on our communications. I think the highlight there is that we continue to increase the number of people that we manage to reach out, the number of subscribers to our newsletter, the number of people following us on LinkedIn and Facebook is growing exponentially, which shows that we're out there and reaching into the community. And I'm happy, I want to leave it with that. I'm happy to take any questions that people might have.
Thank you very much, Arjun, and obviously quite a lot of detail in that report. Councillors, others questions or queries to Arjun? Councillor Brimlacombe.
Just a question to Arjun relating to the telco operator, and are they offering a better coverage to our area, or it doesn't really explain, you know, a lot of the detail in what that meeting was about, please?
Sorry, it's really hard to hear. It could be potentially my connection that is an issue.
Relating to the, you had a meeting with a telco operator, and it relates back to the communication within the Central Highlands Regional Council area. I just a little bit more information on that, please. On are they offering better coverage, or just on that meeting, please, if you're able to.
Yeah, look, I think we work with a whole range of telco operators. NBN, this is Telstra, Optus, Connected Farms. This is a new one. That hence why I wasn't able to mention the name yet. It is a new operator in our region, focusing on remote areas and bringing connectivity into those remote areas with new technology. So it is a bit a competitor of businesses like Connected Farm, who are also focusing on the regions, but they have a service offering that is quite unique and really brings connectivity into the more remote areas. And you think about farms that are remote and who have no connectivity currently.
Thanks, Arjun. Councillor Rolfe?
Through you, Mayor, just about the telco, I have received an email from one of the providers, Councillor Brimblecombe, and it is for service from Comet to Rolleston, and the western boundary is sort of the Emerald Springshaw Road. So I won't, because Arjun can't mention the name, I don't suppose I can, but I have certainly taken that email and the information to a local Orion community, so I think it's out there in the public domain.
Yeah, I guess I can.
Yeah, no, this. I know of the.
There's been a number of under this federal government funding for, and it's a bit of a change in terms of an investment fund. So some private, other private, I guess you'd say, businesses and providers are looking at the opportunities. So there's some pretty substantial applications, I guess, to this funding by a number of groups. We've provided letters of support to some of those. And I think what Christine was referring to there, if you look at the Comet River, you know, literally from Capricorn Highway and south, that area and east is a massive agricultural area that and certainly would appreciate platforms that can support a lot of technology. So that level of investment is the slight change in trend, certainly from some of the federal funds in relation to the opportunity for either private enterprise and or local government to invest in infrastructure to help, I guess you'd say, accelerate the spread. So and it is something, I suppose, that as a council we need to be a little bit aware of, that probably in the way of the world that some of these funds about black spot and communications funds will certainly now be looking for, based on precedent, you know, perhaps the opportunity of local government investing in spaces where they think it's important that there's better connectivity. So, you know, there might be the need at some point in time, and this is a different topic, but a discussion about, you know, that communications strategy, given that in your surveys whether it's at council or and we're talking about this in corporate planning, digital connectivity is one of your major, I suppose, directions. It might be that the way we participate and encourage and enable that will be something that we need to think about. So I'll let you, sorry, Arjun, I did interrupt you there, so you had something to add as well.
Yeah, no, it's very much in line with what you were saying, Mr. Mayor, and it's all about confidentiality. Although one of my colleagues at CHRC is listening in, and it is it can be shared. It is an organisation called Field Solutions Regional Connectivity Program that we're working with and supporting, and we get support from. They're working with council as well, because it's not just CHDC, but it's really about getting the funding and bringing that connectivity into the regions.
Thanks, Arjun. Councillors, anything else? All right. Well, thank you, Arjun. That is very comprehensive, and obviously our fellow CHDC council directors had the opportunity of seeing that, so I appreciate that, sharing it with our entire council board. Thank you. The recommendation is, councillors, that we receive the CHDC quarterly service level agreement update for period 1 October to 31st December 2021. So is someone happy to move that, please? Moved by Councillor Brimblecombe, seconded Councillor Burns. So, councillors, that has been moved and seconded. Councillors, all in favour? Against? Thank you, councillors. All observed. Thank you very much, Arjun. And there is a slight, I don't know whether everyone was hearing, a slight buzz, certainly emanating from your connection there. It might you might have to get the FBI in there. I think there's something going on, but it wasn't so that we couldn't hear, but it was just slightly in the background, Arjun, just for your reference. So, but thank you very much. And we're all working in those same sort of environments at the moment, and I'm really pleased to say that your connectivity to the community has been certainly still maintained very, very highly. So I appreciate it very much, Arjun.
You're welcome, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Councillors, that is effectively the end of our agenda. I can ask councillors, is there any general business that you wish to raise? Councillor Rolfe.
Mayor, just reading this morning that the Queensland Resource Council Resources Awards for women, and although she doesn't work in the Central Highlands Regional Council, but she lives in Dingo, Rebecca Scott, and works at the Goonyella Riverside Mine. So, yeah, shout out to some of our residents who are achieving well.
Thank you, Councillor Rolfe, and just highlights, I suppose, the in-region opportunities of people travelling around to their work opportunities. So it doesn't matter where you live here. Certainly that connectivity is important, but certainly a big shout out to all those. There was it was, I think, advertised the applicants, or certainly the nominees for those awards, and they are an incredible range of different parts of the resource business that women play an incredibly important part in, and clearly are leaders. And I acknowledge the companies that are certainly, in terms of equity, making sure that the opportunity is there for all of us to participate in their industry. So that was very, very good to see. Councillors, any other general business? All good. Well, look, Council, I think as a reminder, certainly our next meeting, 23rd of February, we have that leave of absence for Councillor Moriarty, and we also will look at our new, I suppose, upcoming agenda review opportunity. So we'll obviously be prepared for that. So councillors, let's look out for the way we can obviously contribute to that session. Thank you to our executive leadership team, our CEO, for the reports today. Thank you very much to our technical crew, who are making sure that obviously we can still present our meetings as best we can in the best way possible. Obviously we look forward to catching up with all our community, certainly for their virtual dial-in on 23rd of February. But there being no further business today, I'll declare our meeting closed at 11:17. Thank you, everyone.